you have to look at your life backwards in order to make sense of it. Or to be more precise, the mythological view of life asks of you to look at the story of your life backwards in order to make sense of it, in order to interpret the story of your life so far in a helpful and constructive way, which will allow you to build a meaningful and fulfilling present and future. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, in multiple of my previous videos, and also in all of my writing, or a lot of my writing for years, I've been talking about this idea of needing to look at your life as a story and engaging in your life as a story. Again, I've been writing about it for years, making multiple videos that at least touch on this subject. Then recently I made a video mentioning Carl Jung's idea of necessity of your own personal myth. And it's not only Carl Jung, it's also Rollo May who talked about needing your personal myth. So we have two of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century, or some of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century, talking about necessity of personal myth. And many of you enjoyed these videos, found them thought-provoking, interesting. For some of you, this was quite a new idea, so you asked, can I talk more about personal myth, or the concept of engaging in myth as a form of how to approach life, your life, interpreting your life, life engagement, creating a meaningful life? Well, here is one of the most important and also, let's say, the most fundamental first steps to understand that we interpret, or to be reminded of the fact that we interpret stories looking backwards. And different parts of a story that you're reading or watching start making sense only when additional context is added. So, in any given moment of reading a book, the first or second chapter starts making sense. Let's say you're on the 8th chapter or 15th chapter of the book. Any given page of the 15th chapter can clarify moments that happened in the first or second or third chapter that at that point in time seemed confusing, incoherent, meaningless. Maybe there was suffering or challenge or failure that happened in those first chapters that made no sense. It seemed just like suffering, just like unnecessary challenge, just like failure. And it's the same in your life, because your life is a myth, your life is a story. And this mythological view and approach to life asks of you to remember that life is not to be interpreted in this moment, and this moment, and this moment. You cannot ask for meaning of your challenges to be received and comprehended right now, and right now, and right now, and right now. You have to be reminded of this mythological view and say, okay, this moment allows me to interpret something in the past. And if there is something in this moment right now that I cannot interpret, well, I have to keep building the context of my life so that at some later point I can observe this moment right now making sense. I have been applying this approach to my own life struggles, suffering, challenges. And I know you can do it too. And if you do it, if you do now take a moment and identify at least one thing from the past that was at that point in time painful, didn't make sense, seemed like just unnecessary suffering, but now from this point you can look back at it and realize that it provided some meaning for your life as you moved forward. If you can do that, then you know that every new challenge that you encounter will make sense down the line, as long as you keep moving in that direction, or as long as you keep moving in any direction, just as long as it's not backwards. To give one example, I needed to experience extreme self-doubt and low self-esteem in order to be able to relate to humans the way that I can proudly say I can relate today. In one-on-one conversations, in group setting, face to face through the camera. I can proudly say that I do feel deep connection with humans, and I'm blessed that on a daily basis I receive confirmation of that fact, where people do tell me that I actually understand their struggles. Well, I had to experience that low self-esteem, that insecurity, anxiety, despair. Now I know how much they contributed to me being able to understand others and empathize with others and have compassion for others, and sometimes have advice, helpful advice for others. But at that moment in time, or those moments in time, I wasn't able to make sense of the low self-esteem and how it could contribute to my life at that moment. Because I was not supposed to understand it and interpret it at that point in time. I was supposed to keep moving forward and building or writing my life story so that there would be enough context to then, today, be able to say all of that low self-esteem, insecurity, anxiety, crippling despair, avoidance, all of it was necessary and all of it is meaningful because it made me who I am today and it contributes to my life mission. And you can find the same aspects of your story, or you can find the same experience in your story, different aspects, different context, but the same experience of finding meaning in something that seemed just painful and meaningless, or at least confusing in the past. And it takes just one of these examples to notice, to fully internalize the experience of engaging in your life as a myth, as a story. And then when you continue moving forward and you encounter new challenges and suffering, as all of us will, you will know, I cannot make sense of my life this moment by this moment by this moment and figure it out with every step that I'm making. No. This thing that I'm struggling with right now, this challenge that seems like it's just bringing chaos to my life, at some distant point in the future, or not too distant, at some point in the future, it will make sense. But only if I keep moving forward, if I continue building and writing the story of my life. So I guess the first challenge for you, friends, is to provide a proof to yourself that you can interpret the story of your life backwards, that you can take a look at it backwards and find meaning in suffering that seemed meaningless at that point in time. If you can, if you want to, if you feel courageous enough to share some of those moments and how you interpret them, please share them in the comments. Thank you.